You know that feeling when you're just wrestling with a spreadsheet, trying to get it to cooperate instead of actually finding cool insights in your data? Well, if that sounds familiar, you're in the right place. Today we're going to talk about how a programming language, Python, can basically give you data superpowers. Seriously, it can turn all those tedious tasks into a super smooth, powerful process.
Oh man, we've all been there, right? You're trying to clean up some messy data, you're getting super frustrated with formula errors, or maybe you're just watching your computer slowly grind to a halt because the file is too big. It's such a common headache. But what if there was a better way? A way you could handle data of any size with just a few simple, clear lines of code that you can use over and over again? All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First up, we'll cover why Python is the go-to for data. Then, we'll check out the essential tools, the libraries that make up the data science toolkit. After that, we're going to walk through a really simple hands-on analysis. We'll also touch on a few common mistakes to avoid when you're starting out, and we'll wrap up with your next steps so you can get started right away.
Okay, so let's get right to it. First things first, why Python? I mean, with all the programming languages out there, how did this one become the undisputed champion for pretty much everything related to data?
Well, it really boils down to a few key things. First off, the code itself, it almost reads like plain English. That makes the learning curve way less steep. But the real secret weapon is this huge ecosystem of pre-built libraries. Think of them as toolkits of code that other smart people have already written, so you don't have to. Add to that a massive global community that's always there to help. And you've got a tool that's not just powerful, but also super accessible. It scales from a tiny little file all the way up to the kind of big data that companies like Netflix and NASA deal with. And look, this isn't just some passing trend. Python's popularity in data analysis is no accident. We're talking millions of data professionals, analysts, scientists, you name it, who rely on this thing every single day. It's become the industry standard for a very good reason.
And if you're thinking about your career, and let's be honest, who isn't? This is absolutely crucial. Check this out. It's projected to be the #1 most in-demand skill for data-related jobs in 2025. So learning this stuff, it's not just for fun. It's a direct investment in your future.
Okay, so if Python is the workshop, what are the tools you actually use inside it? Well, that's where those libraries we talked about come in. Think of them like specialized power tools. Each one has a very specific job, and together, they give you a complete toolkit for data analysis.
All right, so let's meet the core team. First, you've got Pandas. This is your spreadsheet on steroids. Seriously, it's what you'll use for organizing, cleaning, and manipulating data, and it can handle millions of rows without even breaking a sweat. Then there's NumPy, which is kind of the math engine humming under the hood. It makes all the numerical stuff happen incredibly fast. When you want to see your data, Matplotlib is your go-to for creating all kinds of basic charts and plots. And Seaborn, it builds on Matplotlib to make really beautiful advanced statistical graphics. And finally, when you're ready to get into predictions, scikit-learn is your powerhouse for all things machine learning.
Okay, that's enough theory. Let's get our hands dirty and actually see this stuff in action. We're going to take a real-world dataset, this one is on professor salaries, and see just how straightforward a data workflow can actually be. We're going to follow a really simple 4-step process. First, we'll import and load the data. Second, we'll explore it a little bit to see what we're working with. Then we'll analyze it to answer a question, and finally, we'll visualize our findings.
And right away, you can see how simple this is. Look at this, just 2 lines of code. The first line, import pandas as PD, is just us grabbing our main tool, pandas. And that second line, that's all it takes to read an entire CSV file and load it into a neat little table that we're calling DF. That's it. 2 lines, and our data's ready to go.
So what's actually in this data? Do we have to open up the whole file and scroll through it? No. We just type one simple command, df.head. This is basically like telling Python, hey, just show me the first few rows so I can see what I'm dealing with.
And boom, here's what we get back. Instantly, we can see all our columns laid out. Rank, discipline, how many years they've been at the job, sex, and of course, salary. This quick peek is perfect. It confirms everything loaded correctly and gives us a really good feel for the data structure.
Okay, so now we can start asking questions. Let's start with a simple one. What's the average salary? Now think about doing this in a spreadsheet. You'd have to find the column, select all the cells, it's a whole thing. In Python, it's just one single, super readable line of code. We literally just tell it, take the salary column and find the mean. That's it.
And just like that, there's our answer.
In literally a second, we went from a raw data file to a real concrete insight. The average salary for this group is just over $108,000.
But you know, an average is just one number. It doesn't tell you the whole story. So, with just another line or two of code, we can create a visualization, like this bar chart. And now we can actually see the story in the data. See how most of the salaries are bunched up around that $100,000 mark? And you can also spot those higher earners on the right that are pulling the average up. This is the power of visualization. It turns boring numbers into a story you can actually understand.
All right, now as you're starting out, you're probably going to hit a few little bumps in the road. It's totally normal. So let's just quickly go over a few common things to watch out for.
Okay, 3 big ones to keep an eye on. First, forgetting to import your libraries like we did with Pandas. It's an easy mistake to make, but your code can't work without its tools. Second is mismatched data types. This is when you try to do math on a column that Python thinks is just text. And third, if you're working with really big files, you might run into memory errors. But here's the good news. Every single one of these is a super common problem with a pretty simple fix. You'll get the hang of it fast.
So we've covered the why, and we've seen a little bit of the how. The last big question is, okay, what do you do next? How can you get started today? Let's break down some clear, actionable steps.
Honestly, the absolute best way to learn is just by doing. So I really encourage you to try these little hands-on exercises. You can download the exact same salaries.csv dataset we used. Instead of seeing the top 5 rows with df.head, try using df.tail to see the bottom 5. Or try len of df to see just how many rows are in the whole dataset. And here's a fun one. See if you can filter the data to only show the prof ranks and then find their average salary. It's a great little challenge. So really, if there's one big takeaway here, it's this. Python democratizes data analysis. It takes these powerful tools that used to be for specialists and puts them in everyone's hands. It turns tasks that seem really complex or intimidating into a series of simple, logical steps that you can write in plain, manageable code.
And that really just leaves one last question, a question for you. Think about it. Whether it's data from your job, from a hobby you love, or just some public data you're curious about, there are stories just sitting there, hidden, waiting to be found. So now that you've had a peek at the tools, what stories are you going to go uncover?